Rich, thanks for coming on the show again, mate.
Yeah, nice to see you again. It's always a pleasure to come and chat and chew the fat. And it's been some time though, hasn't it?
5 years have passed since we did this last time, so I'm sure we've got lots to catch up on.
And reflect on, right?
Yeah, we, if you'd have gone back 5 years ago, 2018, neither of us knew what was in store, what was coming around the corner. But I think the best place probably to start today, just tell me about your life right now, what you're up to and what your day-to-day looks like.
A lot of people don't know my kind of circumstance around like Paralympics, and my event disappeared from the programme after Tokyo, and that kind of left me in a little bit of a limbo with the Paralympics and where I move forwards with that. But luckily, I've made sure I've got lots of pillars that I can kind of jump on and other support networks that I can work with moving forward. So, as you know, Sam, I've got a foundation now, so the Richard Whitehead Foundation, as well as I do a lot of humanitarian work and charity work. I still work with all of my sponsors, which have come on board and really invested in me, not just the performance. Also got a young family, which is great to spend time with them, and also look for exciting new opportunities through what I've done in the past. I've always said that I want to work as hard as I do off the track as I do on the track, and by doing that, creating opportunities in lots of different areas, but also be open and dynamic enough to know that I've developed a skill set and some tools that enable me to translate what performance looks like within sport into business and into life, and hopefully help other people that maybe have those barriers and obstacles in their life. Yes, I was born with my disability, but there's always been obstacles and challenges that I've had to overcome to be successful. And not just having a positive mindset, but also having the ability to be able to communicate how you get around those obstacles and challenges are really important.
You are a brilliant communicator. I know. when I,
I'm not really. I think what it is, I think it's the opportunity to listen and to be heard is something that people don't generally get, because and they are different, and then being able to translate that into a conversation or translating that into a process where you're helping and supporting other people, but also educating yourself.
Yeah.
I always feel that education-wise, for me, when I was younger, was a challenge because people had this perception of who I was and what I could and couldn't do because of my disability. Where now people give me more of an opportunity because they see my success on the track or within sport, and I'm going, actually, that's not just me. I'm not just governed by that gold medal. It's everything else. So I use that medal in a positive way, but I don't want to be governed by it. Yeah,
and I was thinking that today because there's not many athletes that, when a career finishes, they hold on to those relationships with sponsors. That's a difficult thing to do, and it's all about putting time in. And when I came to the race with the Richard Whitehead Foundation last year, you've got Lee Wood there, myself came along. There's loads of local athletes coming. So I've noticed that you're very good at holding on to those relations. Is that something that you consciously do?
And I like to do that organically, so not kind of try to force it. Yeah. I do see within other charities and organisations, they're trying to really push their philosophy or mission onto other people, where myself, I like people, like you say, to come and experience it, and then to take away that kind of emotion or those memories of what inclusion, equality and diversity should look like, but also to celebrate success to the public. And obviously, I'm a massive marathon fan and I love running the marathons. I always say that's the most inclusive event because people off the street can actually be inspired by that. They don't have to pay for a ticket or go in a stadium and watch those events. So that's why when I have my own events through the charity, I want people to come and experience that, and whether it's taking part and actually paying to take part, or actually come and visualising what equality, diversity, inclusion looks like. And that's been a process probably since 2012 that I've developed. And as part of that, I'm more of a rounded person. People think of me as somebody that can not only connect with people, but add value in lots of different ways. So going back to your question about keeping those relationships and sponsorship opportunities kind of fresh, and I think it's about development and offering something new and looking at innovation as something that we can all kind of develop with other people.
What year did you make your debut on the international stage, Richard?
So I was probably 2010.
And how old were you at that point, mate?
36, yeah. So late in my life.
Do you think that's a massive advantage in terms of just having an older head on your shoulders and being able to handle, elite sport and what comes with that, the pressures that come with that, and also, the sponsor side of things?
Yeah.
When I was 18, 19, I remember getting a car for the first, not really understand.
No pubic hair at that stage.
No, definitely not. Not really appreciating it or really understanding it, and definitely not. It was a one-way street. I wasn't giving too much back, because all I wanted to do at that point was train. I just want to train. Do you think having that older head on your shoulders, a bit more experience, and coming into it at 36 was actually a real advantage?
I think I probably had more chapters in my book, and because of that, people and brands, organisations could really relate to that. Also, I felt, because of my experience within working and within teaching and sports development, swimming and going to America and working there for a year, that I was able to translate what my real mission and message is and talk about the wider impact that Richard Whitehead could have on their brand and organisation.
Yeah.
Where I think athletes want it now, and it's very much in the present. And I know we talk about like reflecting on the past and looking to the future and living in the present. And I think for me, you need to have all of those.
Yeah.
You need to be very reflective. You need to kind of look after yourself and your well-being at the moment, but also plan for the future. And athletes can be very selfish and can be me, and this is my brand and protect that brand, but don't really understand that then isolates themselves. They're in one lane, and that one lane then isolates themselves from lots of opportunities in life. The reason why I feel I've developed those partnerships and relationships, and some of the sponsors I've had for like 12 years.
Wow.
So a sponsor for 12 years, and that's being able to be dynamic, transformative as a person, empathetic, understand that there's opportunities out there for us all, and it's not about going and grabbing them, but it's looking at yourself and seeing what value you offer the community.
Yeah, and ultimately, I guess when a brand aligns themselves with, they're investing in you, aren't they?
For sure, yeah, for sure, and also my skill set. But I always say that don't just invest in me and my skill set, but also invest in what I can be for you as well. So, and I'm always looking to have opportunities where I develop still as well.
Yeah.
And as an athlete, we all want to be better, stronger, faster, but then we should do that at the gym, out the pool, off the track.
Yeah.
And I think sport is a bubble that doesn't sometimes let you do that, and is very restrictive. And when you're really in the moment, the only thing you're thinking about is yourself and that performance. So having that opportunity to kind of come outside that bubble and look at the environment and go, actually, what is this stopping me doing?
Yeah, because I can remember having a moment earlier this year where I went to watch the British Gymnastics Championships. I went there to Liverpool, and I went because a couple of my best mates are gymnastics coaches, and I've never seen their kids do gymnastics before, and I thought, I'll go because I want to see them. I can remember being there and thinking, I can remember this world. Everyone here, this is it. Yeah. This is their life, just gymnastics. And I can remember thinking, that's certainly not what I want anymore. Mm-hmm. I can remember being right in it, in the thick of it, in the mix of it. And I can remember when we had that conversation 5 years ago, being really taken back by actually just how driven you were. We had a little conversation beforehand. Like, I can remember after that thinking, I don't feel like I'm that, driven towards this goal that I'm aiming towards.
And I think through some of those obstacles and challenges that I've had in my life previously, I had those moments like London 2012 where it was a great opportunity for me to participate. You get that tracksuit, 80,000 people, home crowd, and then really kind of going for it and putting everything on the line. That's a great opportunity. Then, but also having that opportunity to replicate that at 2016 and to showcase that you're not just a one-trick pony. You can't just do it once. Was something that made me really proud of who I am. That I was able to commit 4 years of my life to really be kind of solely focused on winning the 200 and nearly winning the 100. But I was at that moment when we spoke last time. It was I kind of knew where I was at. Training was great, felt great. When you're an athlete, when you're a full-time athlete, you kind of know when training is going well. The processes are great. The relationships within your coaching team and the relationships with food for an athlete, relationships with your body, all those kind of things that as an able-bodied person that does recreational sport, you don't really think about, or you don't understand how much body awareness has a massive impact on you as a person and your mental health and physical health. And at that moment, I was really driven towards the next golden moment. And that's great to be in that kind of mindset. Yeah. You need to have people around you that back that up. But also, like I said before, it kind of does isolate yourself from maybe some of these other opportunities. And lucky enough to have people around me, like my coach Keith Anton, but also my marathon coach Liz Yelling, and she mentors me a lot with kind of keeping my feet or prosthetics on the ground, and also kind of that reflective process around getting all your ducks in line, and then if that just doesn't work out, kind of do something slightly different, and don't let your real focus or mission really backtrack because things aren't in line. And I wouldn't say I've been lucky in life because I've had those people around me. I think I've subconsciously put those people in around me that not sometimes I don't like them, or it's not as though I go, oh, actually I like this person, so this person can be my coach and mentor. It's they add value, but also we have a partnership that helps not just myself but also them as well.
Yeah. And what about, so in that lead up to that games in 2020, just talk to me a little bit about Tokyo and how you reflect on it now, being where, it was supposed to happen in 2020. I've had some gymnasts on the podcast that have been to that games or missed out on that games, and that whole time it was a weird one. I can remember thinking, like, you close your eyes, you dream of being at Olympic Games, full stadium, full crowd. You've dreamt of this moment your whole life. You get there and it just isn't what you signed up for. What was it like?
No, and obviously athletes visualise those moments, and Tokyo's my fourth games, third summer games, and it was that kind of mental process where in 2020 I'd just come back from a real hard training camp in South Africa. I'd been to Stellenbosch with my coach. We got some great numbers there, invested a lot of time. We normally go to Stellenbosch for about 3.5 weeks. We took an extra half a week, and so it was 4 weeks away from my family, and we trained with the Belgium 400 metre national team out in Stellenbosch, so getting some good work in that kind of middle long distance, lactic, CV kind of engine. Came back feeling right, let's sit down with the coaching team, look at some races, let's put some kind of races behind my training, which I really like doing. And then at the start of that March was obviously when it looked like COVID was going to be, obviously there was going to be a pandemic, and then the Olympics, Paralympics were going to be cancelled. So at that point, I'm going, what is going on? How am I going to be able to sustain any kind of focus? Because I've invested so much in, and financially I'd flown people out there to support me. And this was going to be my last games where I wanted to really go for that golden moment on top of the podium. And then for it to be taken away was literally like, imagine if you're going 120 miles an hour and then you just slam the brakes on. It was just like, it wasn't a car crash, but it was, the brakes were on and there was no real direction at all. And us as athletes had to train in isolation and train in other ways. So me and my coach did a lot of like circuits through Teams and Zoom. We still had access to tracks, but it wasn't as fluid as I'd wanted it to be. And also mentally, I think 2020 was going to be a year where, like, my numbers were saying I was on for breaking world records, and even in my mid-40s, I felt fresh, I felt enthusiastic about the sport. I still felt that I had something to give the Paralympics at that level, and it was massively, it was taken away. So to then be pushed back a year, even though I was thankful of that, which I probably wasn't. I probably at that point was going, actually, shall I continue?
Yeah.
Have I got the appetite to continue?
Was the plan to carry on after Tokyo if it had been in the summer of 2020?
Probably, and then enjoy that last cycle, going into Paris, and because of the impact that COVID had on my classification and athletes didn't continue, and the lack of investment from the IPC and the lack of vision, my event has now disappeared from the Paralympic movement. So for not just myself, because I've had my kind of days in the spotlight, I've had my success, I've had my podium moments where I'm able to create a so-called legacy for other athletes. But what about those athletes that are coming
but what about the
me?
ones you inspire
Yeah,
in
exactly.
2012? You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a real shift for sport regarding, do sports invest in legacy of the athletes? Do the sports national governing bodies support athletes, providing legacy for younger athletes in their home countries and all over the world? Or do they just chase medals? And unfortunately, within the Paralympics, because it's so political and because it's only driven by numbers, the event's not there anymore, which is really frustrating. Yeah.
Does that feel like almost 2 steps forward, 1 step back?
Yeah, more probably 2 steps forward, 4 steps back.
Right.
Yeah, it's sport, as we know, has lots of opportunities to inspire the world. And within 2012, you had that real uplift in the country regarding the disabled community, some really positive, some not so. Going to Rio again in South America, having a real impact on the disability community. I think it's lost its way.
Yeah.
I honestly think that the Paralympic movement is fragmented. It's not got a real focus, and because of that, the athletes are then becoming very insular and looking for those,
Trying to hold on to what they've got and not lose it.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
and also looking for those reality TV moments to make
Right,
themselves
yeah.
famous.
It's almost like it's the movement's ran out of steam. A little bit.
I really feel that. Yeah, I really feel that. And also, I feel that the athletes have really lost the focus why they did it in the first place, why they got involved in sport in the first place. And that's something that I've probably, now that I'm out of track athletics, that's something that I've really found a love for training. I love training again. Like I've always said that I've never been the best athlete, but I always feel in the gym and on the track I was always the person that trained the hardest and gave everything every session, and always had those gold medal moments. And I think we need to find the love of what we do, and that's why I asked earlier if you were back training, because I think it's the reason why we went in the gym and spent 35, 40 hours in the gym has to be that you love doing it. If you don't love doing it, then why are you doing it in the first place? And probably from last year, probably from the start of last year, I didn't go to the gym, I didn't run, started putting on weight, lost the real love for sport. And then obviously having my foundation and seeing in other people's eyes the impact you can have, it's incredible.
Yeah. The actual competition in Tokyo, you've finished second. You won a
Yeah.
Paralympic silver medal.
Yeah, so I was really happy with that. I was happy with my performance. I was happy that I could deliver that for my country and family, and that was my fourth Paralympic medal, 2 golds, 2 silvers. So kind of looking back at my career, I can go, I gave everything for the sport, and I've got loads of memories for that. I hope people don't define me because of those medals. I know some people do because of what sport is about. For some people, it's just winning. But to go there, no crowds in the stadium, just athletes. To be able to deliver that, I kind of came home and went, thank goodness.
Yeah.
It was different. I just felt, because we were isolated in Tokyo, so you could only go in the stadium, obviously the Olympic Village, and then the holding camp facility. That was it, for those 3.5 weeks, and I just felt, it just wasn't. It
just wasn't the same.
No, because like when you go to a games, it's like the buzz around it, and you're in the hall with like some of these athletes from these countries that you watch on TV, and you go, that's this athlete, and they're kind of incredible, and just having you'd sit down and you'd eat breakfast with like people from countries that you'd never like heard of, or athletes that you never thought you'd be able to get anywhere near. And that's what's special. That building that camaraderie and those relationships with people that last a lifetime. And I just felt that Tokyo had kind of come away from that. And even within the Great Britain team, I didn't feel there was those relationships. Like London 2012 was incredible. Like the people that performed I went to watch like Ellie swim, and I went to go and watch Sarah Story in the velodrome, and you kind of just go, actually, I've got a bit of free time, let me go and watch some other sport. Where Tokyo, I was like, no, I'm just going to go back to my room and chill.
Was it almost because everyone had been through a similar situation, no matter what country you'd been from. So I'm guessing everyone's under a lot of pressure not to get COVID, not to test positive.
Yeah.
You know, they've all done an extra year. Everyone's done it. It must have just been just a bit of a pressure cooker, just not quite that. I made it to the Olympic Games. You know?
Yeah. And obviously some people lost that opportunity with that year. We losing that year, obviously, for Tokyo. And I think maybe grateful was the word. I think I'm grateful that the Games was on.
Yeah.
And I never wanted to be like grateful that I was a Paralympic athlete. I wanted to know that I'd earned that.
Yeah.
I'd earned that right, and I was going to go and I was going to blow people out the water with my performance and put it all on the track. Well, I was probably just happy in Tokyo, just happy doing my thing.
Yeah.
It didn't work out how I wanted it to, like, to be honest. But that was just because of my age, where I was at in my performance, and I gave 110%. So I know that was it. That was my best performance, and I think that's all you can ask.
Yeah.
Sometimes people like go, oh, you didn't do a season's best, or you didn't do a personal best or world record. For me, it's about knowing when you cross that finish line or come off that mat or come out the pool, you've given everything. You couldn't do any more. I think that's the best you can do.
Yeah, I think if you finish the event or finish the competition or the race and you go, do you know what? My best today was 4th, and that's fine.
Yeah.
On another day, it might have been 1st. That performance might have got me 1st. I think if you can walk away feeling like that, I certainly got towards that at the end of my career, I think. You know, the classification decision, was that made before the Games in Tokyo or after it?
Yeah, so after Tokyo.
Okay. So you didn't know that, because I was wondering whether you knew it before and that kind of... affected your mindset a little bit.
And also, like, COVID had a massive influence on the number of athletes coming into my event. And
what determines a decision like that? What are the main factors that they take into consideration?
A lot of political decisions, and it happens in Olympic sport, as you know, as well as Paralympic sport, where people's events are taken out, and whether that's... I think they were looking to bring more events into the female categories. Also, take events out of the Paralympic movement. My numbers in my event were dropping because of COVID, like I say. Those that haven't seen me run before, I run on 2 prosthetics. So the athletes that have to train for those events, takes years and years of training to get to a level where you're competing nationally, never mind internationally. So if you've got like COVID and 2 years where you can't train in your country, how are you able to get the prosthetics that you need to be able to train? So lots of reasons why, and then the way that it was announced was terrible as well.
Right.
So the programme came out for France, and my event just wasn't on there.
No explanation, nothing.
Nothing, no. So I wasn't even told.
So you're ringing up your coach.
Well, not even that. So what happened was, my coach got a phone call saying, because after Tokyo, we'd kind of said, well, if you want to continue, Rich, I could maybe do a bit of like part-time coaching, but I'm going to kind of take a little bit of a step back. And at that point, I was like, well, I don't know whether I'm going to continue or I might just like train a little bit rogue and train on my own because I feel I've got those tools to be able to do that. Anyway, so he gets a phone call from the performance director at the time and basically says to Keith, oh, yeah, have you heard that Richard's event's been taken out? And it was no idea, no, not heard. Obviously, he talked about our conversation that we'd had. It was a conversation we had actually on the plane back from Tokyo home, and she was like, "Oh, do you think Richard knows?" Anyway, so at that point, I looked at the program and no event, and I'm like, I literally looked. I'm sure my events and no event, and that's how international organisations and national governing bodies treat athletes.
Yeah.
And that's what it's terrible because without the athletes, you've got no games.
No, and I guess at that point, right, are you off funding then because your
right.
Your event doesn't exist, right?
Yeah. And if I wasn't as clued up around the work that I've done with my sponsors and the retention of those, and if I wasn't an athlete that was mindful of those reflecting on the past, living in the present, and looking to the future, then it could have been a real kind of struggle because mortgage, lifestyle,
exactly, yeah.
all those bills to pay. And as we know, it's cutthroat.
Yeah.
And I think I was on funding for 6 months after that. But no real support. And no real support that nobody actually ever came to me and said, what do you need?
Yeah.
Nobody. Mentally or physically. After Tokyo, I had an operation on my wrist. It was actually an operation that I probably needed to have done for a couple of years, but I had it done after Tokyo, and I wasn't able to drive for 8 weeks. Okay. And not one person from the national governing body said, "Oh, do you need anything at home, or do you need us to kind of support you?" And that just shows those athletes out there that are watching today. You have to be selfish. You have to put things in place because those people that say they're your best mates and those people that it's all transactional.
And when you're younger, you always think, that won't happen to me though. Yeah. They like me, they'll look after me, and it doesn't, does it?
No. And you can be the gold medalist, the person that's bringing in the money at the time, but as soon as those performances slip, or as soon as that funding is lost, or you've not got an event, you're out the door. Like it is terrible. Like we just had a World Championships recently, and that was my first one that I've not actually been to. Not had any conversation with the performance team about getting involved. Not had a conversation about, I'm really sorry you're not here, or we missed you, and that hurts. It hurts because like with my performances, like I was unbeaten for 10 years. I put millions of pounds into the sport. With my performance, it means nothing. All those members of staff that I've paid for them to work, nothing. Yeah, like members of the British athletics team that live like maybe 5 or 6 miles away, they just don't care. It's like,
have you been surprised at? I mean, you're pretty switched on, right? So you're watching other athletes and you see how it works and you talk to people. Yeah. So you're aware of how cutthroat it is, but were you even still, were you surprised with just how ruthless it was?
Yeah, but also human behaviour. Like myself and a fellow athlete, Libby Clegg, ran a WhatsApp group, a well-being WhatsApp group. Libby then moved over to another sport. She's not participating anymore. I've obviously moved away from athletics, and probably out of that group of 60 plus athletes, probably I speak to 3 now.
Right.
So it shows how selfish people can be, but also that we support some of those athletes through some quite challenging times,
Right.
In their careers, and then to not have that reciprocal approach.
Yeah, when the tables have turned.
I think it does. It's not changed my approach as a human being, because I'm who I am, and I feel that I'm not going to change because of other people's behaviours, but it does really make you think about
where you're putting your time and your energy a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. And also is the support reciprocal in the respect, do you actually care about me because we care about you? And future opportunities for me, which I have a lot of within sport, I am very conscious about where I put my time now, because some people are driven by money. I'm not. Obviously, we all need to be paid. We've got bills to pay. I'm not driven by that. I'm driven by how I can grow as a person, what it can add value to me as a person, but also how I can help people achieve their ambitions in life.
Yeah. How's the foundation help you keep that love for running? Because, I can see from the conversation we just had and what you just said, like, it is, and I've felt it the same. As much as I knew it was coming, it was still painful. It was still hard.
Sure.
And it's a lot of athletes retire, finish, and don't want anything to do with the sport that they took part in for 20 years and committed so much of their lives to. Yeah. How's the foundation help you kind of almost give you that perspective of, oh no, running's about, this is what it's about.
Yeah, and I think I always loved marathon running and what marathon run gave me. For those that haven't got a disability or don't wear prosthetics, for me, putting my running legs on was probably the same as getting your first bike and taking those stabilisers off. That like real freedom. And when people have said to me, "Oh, well, you'll never be able to run," or you'll always be hindered because of your prosthetics, and then be able to run a marathon and run 40 marathons in 40 days and be the marathon world record holder and all this kind of jazz, it kind of, for me, was like, it's a big, like, you know what I mean? But I can do anything, you know what I mean? And at that point, like, through marathon running, I was really kind of driven to kind of showcase what can be possible. And I've ran in Beirut and Rome and like Asia, South America, South Africa, all these places that have issues around human rights and disability, and to be able to be a part of that social change. And I've worked with some incredible humanitarian charities through my running, and then to go into the Paralympic movement, where it's very much, you can go to the Paralympics and win this gold medal. Everybody's like, gold medal, like, are you going to win gold? And it's all driven towards that self-gratifying moment. Then to come back out of that and go, and I'm seeing, like, you came to an event, you're seeing young people with, like, conditions, disabilities, circumstances a lot worse than themselves, and they're finding their own love through running and through sport, and the conversations that had and the barriers that are broken with just getting people together. Yeah, it's so powerful, and that's what the love of sport for me has really given me, the opportunity to have those meaningful conversations that they take away in their lives, and it really makes a change. But the Paralympics it's given me the opportunities that it has to run 40 marathons in 40 days. It's given me the opportunity to have my foundation. But my foundation's been a 10-year process. Yeah. It was after 2012, there was an opportunity to have a charity, but I felt I didn't have the skills or the tools to be a charity and foundation that really reflects the community. Where now because of the work that I've done in the homeless community and humanitarian community and like with Sarcoma UK and all the other awesome charities I've worked with, I really feel that intersectionality approach of supporting people that have all these barriers and obstacles and really go, it's about life.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's about kind of giving people those equal opportunities in life. But with this, when you open that door, what I found is there's so many more issues that people have, especially now with the economy, and it's the cost of living for people with disabilities. It's massive.
Yeah. What was a race like this year?
It's awesome. Yeah, no, it's growing. The conversations that we kind of had with people were transformative around kind of, this is where we're at the moment. Can you help us get a stroller to support our disabled youngster get involved in marathon running, or this young person that's been to one of our sessions at Newcastle came down and he like pushed a mile on a skateboard, and he's a quadruple amputee, so he's got no legs and one arm. And to see him like just kind of having those moments and memories that I've been able to kind of offer is really powerful. Yeah. I'm proud of those, because I know other athletes have tried and failed in the Olympics and Paralympics to have those kind of foundations and charities, and it's not easy. And you need to have a strong group of people around you. But like you said before, I feel maybe the tools and skills that I've developed in life and through sport, I'm able to group people together because of that, and hopefully it becomes successful for a long time.
It seems like you're very good at applying the skills that you've picked up throughout your life into almost pivoting. It seems like you're very good at pivoting quick, fast. Yeah,
and I'm creative as well. I'm quite creative with opportunities. I'm one of those thinkers where you kind of see an opportunity, and sometimes you need other people to give you a little bit of a push. But I'm kind of going, yes, I see this opportunity. Let's go into that area. Let's fully immerse myself as well, which I think is important, because some people like half-arse those opportunities where I'm like going, right, we're going to go all in or not at all.
Just force it into action.
Yeah, and I've got other kind of irons in the fire in those areas. And for me now, it's more about passion. Am I passionate about this? I am. Let's kind of go for it. And people are saying, the foundation normally takes like 10 years to get off the ground and have an impact, where like Nissan, one of my corporate sponsors, has come on board, and they're providing young people with prosthetics and mentorships and support into work and employment. And that's where I see the real transition, where those relationships I've developed as a track athlete that have provided support for the Paralympic movement, and now then supporting obviously my foundation and grassroots sport and the people that really do need it.
Yeah. Where does the money that you raise through the foundation, how does it get used? Like, how does it support?
So on our projects, and so the pillars of the foundation that we do a lot of work in is education, employment, and participation. So providing programs all over Great Britain for anybody with a disability. So whether you're 6 or 60, whether you're recreational sport or just want to move with your disability, all the way up to providing prosthetics, wheelchairs, equipment in your journey towards being a professional athlete. So it's great as well, because there's so many like gaps in the community, especially within employment and teaching. 0.4% of the teaching workforce has a disability. So if you're somebody that's in education that wants to inspire to be a leader of tomorrow, you can't see those leaders in your community because you don't see anybody like you.
Yeah.
And the young man that I was talking about then, the triple amputee, we went to go and see him, and he was like, he saw me, I was like, I thought I was the only amputee in the world. He'd never seen another amputee.
No way. Wow.
And I'm like, they're the kind of things that we need to be working on, that education, working on education with young people around removing some of these barriers and obstacles, and all the way up to them promoting opportunities in employment.
Yeah, that's amazing, mate. Yeah, I've never thought about that before, but it makes so much sense. Yeah,
And like yourself, when you had those moments with your coach around that kind of Olympic gold medal moment, that was your driving force, wasn't it? And I think young people with disabilities or young people from minority groups that are suppressed need to have those opportunities of enrichment, because if you don't, you don't believe that you can achieve your ambitions and your possibilities.
How important do you think sport is as a tool for helping to deal with some of the issues that young people are facing at the moment?
Yeah, for sure. And
whether that's young people with disabilities or not.
Yeah, for sure. And I would say probably 9 out of 10 people that reach out to me are people that haven't got a disability.
Really?
It's and even within the foundation, we have groups of young people or people in rehabilitation, and whether that's substance abuse or other areas, they reach out because they like our philosophy and really mission how we support people. And for me, sport obviously has rules within the games, but it also you create that level playing field for people to participate, and that's what inclusion is really about.
Yeah.
And treating people equally, obviously, for that equality element, which is really important. And then also giving people that opportunity of enrichment within the diversity field, for me, means that you kind of have that diversity of thought as well, because like racism, you're not born racist, are you? You know what I mean? It's like you're racist because of your environment, and it's the same as discrimination. And it's interesting because I walk to kids school with my kids, and I've got shorts on, and I'll be walking into school with kids, and I hear a parent with a youngster, maybe getting to nursery or year one, and they'll be like, "Oh, look at that robot," or "Why has he got like legs like that?"
The kids, yeah.
And at that point, it's the responsibility of the adult to educate that youngster.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get that the parents go, "Don't be silly," and I'm going to my black friends. Imagine if you're walking to school with your kids, and that little kid's going, "Look at that black man," or "Look at that guy that's Asian," or "Why is he a different colour to me?" And that parent then pulls that child away. At that point, they've not addressed that issue.
Yeah.
Now, at that point, if they had addressed that issue with words of "go and ask," or "this is the reason why," then that literally is gone.
Yeah.
And that is never mentioned again. That's just accepted. And those are the things that I think we need to address, because sport gives you that opportunity to say we're all different, and we are all different, and we all in life have differences. We have obstacles to overcome. We're all affected by illness or a debilitating disease, and we need to respect each other. We need to value each other individually, and not just say that person's a disabled person, like stereotype them. That person's got that condition, stereotype them. You need to treat them individually and support them individually as well. So that's why sport gives you that opportunity and platform to really talk about the triumphs, but also those challenges and obstacles, and give the audience that's listening or watching the tools to be able to negate life.
Yeah. Do your kids take part in sport?
They're not very sporty. I think my kids and people in the community that I'm around, I encourage them to be more physically active, go for those opportunities you want, but just give people decisions. And I was like kind of pushed into sport by my parents because they saw the power of sport for me being a real opportunity for me to be more included in society as a youngster, because of the environment at the time. And I'm glad they did, because that gave me that kind of real purpose and drive to show other people that things are possible. With me as a parent, the environment's changed. So my kids, if they want to swim or go on the bike, or both my kids like to swim and they like to kind of climb trees and stuff and just enjoy life. And I think that's, my parenting style is probably, me and my partner, I'm probably the one that's a little bit more kind of manly with my approach in respect. I'm a disciplinarian.
Yeah, right, okay.
But the kids love it because we do some cool things, and I challenge them all the time, and because I want them to be successful. But I know life's tough as well.
Yeah. How did becoming a dad impact your life?
So that was just after 2012. So before 2012, I had no kids. Now I've got two. Definitely perspective. You see life through a different lens. You also, I think, you value life more, and understand that when you have those opportunities in life, that you really value them, and whether that's that really important time with your close family and friends, or whether it's those kind of real key moments. So when you're having that moment on that podium, that you have those people around you that have supported you. Yeah. But because they're obviously, when they're really young, it's you're having to support everything there. Yeah. Their eating, their well-being, you're an educator to them as well, and it's powerful. It's powerful that you're able to do that. And then puts sport into perspective. And yes, it's still something that you're driven to do, but it's not the end of the world. Yeah. So when you're actually trying to really immerse yourself into winning that gold medal or getting on that team, you're putting things in place to be able to provide for your family, but also you're kind of going, look, I want my family to see what I'm doing, and then kind of go, actually, this is possible for me as well in different ways. So it definitely gave me a different perspective.
Did you feel like you got, when we talked about going into Tokyo in 2021 and that time in COVID where you couldn't train as much, imagine you spent more time with your family. Yeah. Do you think that maybe played a part in why your perspective, almost your mindset shifted a little bit going into that games in 2021, and it wasn't as much, it seems like you still put everything into it, and you said, but it wasn't quite so.
Yeah, I think because of spending time at home, and then also seeing how the rest of the world had reacted through COVID, really put a perspective on how important that games was. And also, I was probably, between the cancellation of the games then going, still toying with actually going myself. Yeah. And probably because of where I was at in my career, and knowing it possibly could be my last games, then that kind of made my decision up for me. It was more that selfish one, actually. I just have one more rodeo and just go and just have another race on the track. But looking back, was it all worth it? I don't know. I actually don't know. A silver medal, does it mean as much as obviously winning? Obviously not. I think it's, but a lot of people have obviously seen me race, and even my performance in Tokyo, they got to see that, and my kids saw it at school, and So I think looking back, Tokyo is probably a performance where I kind of went, I could have been at home. Yeah. You know what I mean? One of those. Yeah. And
that probably tells you it was time to move on, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think when athletes get to that point, it's hard to let go as well. Yeah. It's because there's so much uncertainty around the structure of your life after that. If you're totally immersed in sport and you're doing 30, 40 hours of training, as well as everything else, and you're seen as this professional athlete, then to take a step back, you kind of go...
How do you describe yourself now? If someone says...
Well, I've not officially retired because
Because you still run marathons.
Because I still run, but I'd never retire from my mission and focus. And now...
Do you think running will always be in your life?
Yeah, I don't want to run marathons when I'm like 70. I think I always have an impact on the running community, and whatever that looks like, I think that depends on myself and those opportunities that come around. I think I'm tarnished by some of my experiences within sport. I don't know, at the moment, some of them are quite raw, so I'm
fresh.
I'm kind of, even like some of the conversations I've had recently about involvement with national governing bodies and like the IPC and because of how myself and fellow athletes have been treated. Still kind of is in my head going.
So are you being asked to get involved?
Yeah, in lots of different ways.
And
yeah.
you kind of feel like, well, you want me now, you didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
That,
and for me, even with like other athletes and like support and mentoring other athletes from other countries, and do I get involved because I feel I can offer something, or do I kind of really take a step back and go, I need to look after myself for a little bit and really find myself? And that's where the foundation's helped. But I think I define myself more of somebody that utilises the power sport to make that shift in society around what is possible, and hopefully it's not just within the disability community.
One more question just on being a dad. How did growing up with a disability, how has that affected the way in which you parent your kid? Do you know what I mean? Because your experience would have been very different to the one they'll have, right?
Yeah, for sure. And society is definitely more tolerant, more inclusive in certain areas. But I also feel that because we are now this social media internet society where everything needs to be perfect and filtered, and with a disability, especially a disability that's visible, it really does affect, obviously, people's self-confidence. And that's what I was talking about, obviously, like body awareness things earlier. Just kind of, as a person with a disability, it really does have an impact on that physical but also mental well-being. And the trauma that you suffer through the discrimination, the obstacles and challenges can last a lifetime. I'd like to think that because of those challenges that I've had, and I've never had a silver spoon, like everything that I've got in life, I feel I've had to work for it, that I want my kids to work hard, I want them to love life and enjoy life, meet new people and experience new things, but also feel that they've got adventure in their life as well. I feel like at certain points in my life were quite a struggle, and then all of a sudden you kind of have that acceleration moment where lots of cool things are happening.
Yeah.
But I think without those moments of having a really tough time at primary school, kind of having that inspiration of seeing Terry Fox like running when I was like 13, 14, and then like going to America and doing my first marathon, all those kind of key moments in my life kind of actually went, that set me up for like now to hopefully encourage other people to do similar things. And also, I would say it's important for us to all be vulnerable at some point. And within that vulnerability, it's a learning process.
Yeah.
And yes, you don't always, you're not always successful. And you do have failure in your life. And I've probably learnt more from that failure than I have from its success, because that success has just happened because of all the preparation I put in place. And I'm just thankful that I've had other people around me that have that care about me and support me to get me over some of those barriers and obstacles and empower me to be better.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a brilliant story, mate. I'm glad we've had this opportunity to chat 5 years down the line.
I know, it's
we're
crazy,
both in
isn't it,
different
5
places in our life, and
that's it. You've not lost your hair yet.
I've not lost my hair yet. I'm going to keep it, hopefully. What level of training do you do now? You know, like how much are you running? I know you're still doing marathons. What are your goals for the rest of this year? Maybe next year, sport-wise.
So I always like a challenge, and whether that's like physically, mentally. But I always put like, again, back to my training with my coach and like being able to access like some of the sports science stuff at Loughborough. I always kind of go, actually, is this possible? Can I do this? Shall I put a challenge in place? How do I kind of say, well, I'm not going to go to Paris next year. How do I put something in place that's going to drive me on physically, mentally, but also support my mission moving forwards, and have that spotlight on not just myself, but also use that for the foundation. So I did a couple of road races last year, and I've done a couple of marathons. And I was like, do I want to do this again? Do I want to trot round? Because I've done a lot of marathons, so I've done 77 marathons, so I can trot round a marathon, but do I want to have another real push for a time? So I've kind of challenged myself that even in my late 40s, I want to have another go at the world record for the marathon, so I broke the world record and did hold it for 10 years, 2:42, but there's a Bologna amputee from America, and he's run 2:38.
Right.
But I'm still faster than him over a half marathon. So my marathon time of 1:14:59 hasn't been broken in like 15 years. So I feel that's a real big target.
Yeah.
So I'm running New York in November, trying to break 3 hours there.
Okay.
And then just try and chip it. I've got 2 or 3 races next year where I'm going to try and incrementally lower it by not actually, because athletes, what we can do is we train really hard, then spank our bodies, and then it takes a month to recover.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to incrementally take time off to then hopefully get really close to 2:38 in Chicago next October.
Okay.
So I've got like about a 14, 15 month plan to hopefully.
That's so cool. It's so cool that at the age you're at now, you're still pushing yourself. You've still got challenges. And
I think it's important. I think it's important in life. I think if you're watching this now and you're like struggling to really get focused in your life or to goal set, I think it's important to have those achievable goals that you can have success with.
Yeah.
And that can even be like, I just want to do 10,000 steps today. I want to go to the gym and start doing legs because I've not done legs before, or because I do too much bicep curls, or whatever it is. Or it could be like, I just want to go and join a running group, and then have that ladder of success where then runs on that ladder, and then every run on that ladder is an improvement.
Yeah.
And you're climbing that ladder to get to the top, and then you set another ladder, and hopefully the sky's the limit, right?
Yeah.
And for me, I think I'll always have those goals and aspirations, but not always maybe physically. But I always think we can improve. I always think that even it's like I always hear this kind of, in your 40s you should be doing this, or do you know what I mean? It's like
There's no rules there.
No, there's no rules, and especially within disability sport as well, because we acquire disabilities as well as obviously are born with them. And if you acquire your disability in your 30s, maybe you've been in Iraq or Afghanistan and you've suffered through conflict, your athletic age is going to be different than your actual personal age. So the impact of training might be 5 or 10 years. So that's really your athletic age.
Yeah.
And that's what I say to people that support Olympic and Paralympic athletes, that don't judge them on their age.
Yeah.
It's more about what they can actually, what learnings you can have from that individual, from watching their performance or having them within your internal brand. And that's why it does really, really frustrate me when they literally really kind of focus in on that golden moment, because they want to be associated with golden success. And as we know, and this is one of my quotes, as we know, not every gold medalist is a nice person, right? And not every gold medalist is somebody that has the right mentality.
People are people, aren't they? I always said that. Just because you're a policeman doesn't mean all policemen are nice people. Or just because you're a nurse.
And one of the things that really does like get on my kind of nerves is the whole like Olympians and Paralympians when they go to the Olympics and Paralympics and win a gold medal and they get an MBE. They get recognised for the country. That's something that just it doesn't sit very well. I think you need to have done work. So an MBE is a member of the British Empire Award from the Queen, or now the King.
Yeah.
And I think that needs to, because it's given to me by
Yeah,
services to sport. Now, I won mine in 2012.
Yeah.
At that point, I won a gold medal. Do you know what I mean? Whether I deserve that now or not, but at 2012 and before that, a lot of Olympic and Paralympic athletes receive these great honours for doing nothing, really, in my eyes. But also, it's not what you do before; it's what you do after with it.
Yeah.
How do you become a better citizen, if literally, and serve your community and really immerse yourself in that? Because you'll know loads of gymnastic coaches and volunteers and athletes that have done 40, 50 years, maybe experience in that sector. They don't get any recognition.
Yeah, in the end, I think, to be honest, in the end, mate, and I was living this very selfish life. It was all about me, my goal, my dream to go to the Olympics. It's just very, one-dimensional.
Yeah.
There's not much to it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, in the end, I was like, well, if all I am is it wasn't I wasn't happy at the time. But yeah, I'm of a similar view to you on that. I guess, to finish up then, what are your hopes for yourself in the future? What are your hopes for the foundation? And then, you've touched on it a lot in terms of the Paralympic movement. How do you hope, it might shift back in the right direction in the years that are coming? Or do you just not see that happening?
Hopes for the future. I think with obviously what I do now, with obviously where you're at, and obviously being happier now because of the people around you and also the opportunities you have. I think that's really important, that you have people around you that are honest, that you can have those conversations with, that are very transparent, that you can trust, that can support kind of your mission, your core values, and add value to yourself, but also that you can have that impact on the community. And I think the foundation really does give me the opportunity to give back, for sure. And it's something that, like I said before, it's something that I never thought I'd be able to do. I'm very proud of that. I'm very honoured that people give me that responsibility. When I put that tracksuit on for GB, I've always thought I'm very patriotic and I want to kind of do that. But the relevance now, it's a bigger relevance because of I'm actually seeing and having an impact physically with those individuals. I think personally, always be open to opportunities, ideas. I'd be the best person I can be, because I think I was probably the best athlete that I ever could be. And I'm not saying that I was the best athlete in the GB team or in the world, but I felt that I was the best person I could be.
Yeah.
And also do work, not just around Great Britain or internationally, but also in my local community. And because they're people that have supported me, I've got quite a big following on social media, and people interact with me a lot for those means. And how do you give back to those individuals that are really struggling at the moment? And be a voice as well. So when those individuals do reach out to you, have the empathy to be able to connect with them, communicate with them, and provide them with the tools that enables them to live a fruitful life.
Yeah.
And then that make me happy as well.
Yeah.
I want to use what I've got and not just those gold medals.
Yeah. I guess I've got a story from
Jack and I, is it?
No. we bumped into each other about 6 weeks ago in Bridgeford. Can you remember?
Yeah.
So we bumped into each other, and I'd just got engaged that weekend. And I introduced you to Connie, my fiancée.
And now she don't want to get married to you anymore. She wants to get married to me, right?
Yeah, that's what it is. So we're having a chat, and you're going, Sam, how are you? What you up to? Are you keeping fit? You doing any sport? And I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to play football. and she stood next to me, and you're just rich to me. So I'm going, yeah, I want to play football for the next 5 years while I've still got my legs. And we carry on having this conversation. You don't even bat an eyelid. And we walk off and she goes, did you really just say that to him? I went, what? What did I say? She went, you just said you're going to keep playing football while you've still got your legs. I went, yeah, but that's rich. Like, he won't care. I was like, when I see him, I don't see his prosthetics. I just see him, you know.
Yeah.
And I think for me, like, the most amazing thing about meeting you is that you're just such an incredible person. It really does hit home to me. Like, but it's also, it's not the person in the it's not the t-shirt, right? It's the person in it.
And also you see life through a different lens as well. No, and you obviously, with doing this and giving people a platform to talk about their stories, is really important, because the people that you'll connect with will have that light bulb moment that will enable them to go, now I know I've got the drive to a positive life.
Mate, thank you very much for coming on. I've really appreciated it. You're a top man.
As always.
And
let's not wait 5 years.
Let's not wait another 5 years now. Thanks, mate.